Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Greco. Welcome to Worldview. This is a 30-minute program that focuses on geography, culture, different aspects of just about every country you can think of, and tries to focus on the country itself and how it interacts with other countries, as well as how it affects the United States. So, what we're going to do today is do what I should have done a long time ago, and that was I should have taken and basically introduced you to the worldview. And I think this is a good, solid 30 minutes to show you how I come across the different data to be able to put into each show, and how you, through basically free things on the internet, can do your own worldview, can understand better countries, can hear something on the news and suddenly realize, I wonder where that country is, and then be able to go about and do basically what I do. So, since this is going to be on YouTube, and I'm going to put this on YouTube, hopefully it'll reach a wider audience and be able to, other than those that see Roku TV and Pod TV, which is what we're on, be able to take a look at this show and be able to understand a little bit more about how it all comes together. And look, this is, if I can do it, you can do it type of approach. You'd be surprised at how much information there is out on the internet. So don't ever hesitate to go out and get the information that you need. So the first thing we'll talk about is Google Earth Pro, this is a free download. I mean, you can get this and get this free. Just look up Google Earth Pro, and you too can have this great looking globe. And you see up in the top left hand corner here, it's got a little ruler, and I just want to show this to you as we go along. It'll show distances in different areas, and you can see it'll show it in miles, show in nautical miles. It'll show it in inches, kilometers, meters, centimeters, whatever you want. Smoots. We'll talk about that a little bit, or in another program actually. Degrees. It'll show you different degrees. And even arc seconds, which arc seconds has to do with when you're talking about literally a curve. So you have these different areas, and you can do a lot of different things here. You can do a 3D path, 3D polygon, and we'll go through those different areas. And because I think it's important to understand distances, and I don't think people understand distances and exactly what's going on there. So you can rotate this thing. And so what I wanted to do in this show is I wanted to just explore, and you can even change your perspective here. So I'm gonna kind of put this back to north. So this, and I think continents are important. So let's talk about continents for a second here. So let's talk about North America. Now, a lot of people sit there and they go, well, North America, we know what North America is, really. So a lot of people don't. Well, North America is made up of Canada. Now, whenever we talk about America, we talk about USA, United States of America. We talk about these areas in here, which is called the continental United States, contiguous United States, whatever you want to call it. And then you have up in here, you have Alaska and you have Hawaii. Now, Alaska and Hawaii are basically not part of the contiguous 50 states. They're basically what they call the contiguous 48, which is this area here, and then Alaska and Hawaii. So I think that's important. Also, remember that America also has territories too, such as Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, American Samoa, Guam. All those are part of America. They actually have governors. They actually, states legislatures. They do a lot of things that we do from the standpoint of states aspects. But this is North America. It's made up of Canada, and North America, believe it or not, is also made up of Mexico. So when you talk about North America, you also talk about Mexico. And it's interesting. Mexico, this is called Baja California here. And right in here is all North America. So this is North America. This is North America. This is North America. So I think it's important that a lot of things we do are because of we border with Mexico and we border with Canada. So a lot of trade we do with Mexico and Canada are governed by certain treaties, and that's usually prefaced by North American, like when NAFTA was big. North America Free Trade Act. That included Mexico and Canada. So that's North America. Now, what is Central America? Well, Central America starts here. We talk about Guatemala. So here we have what they call the Yucatan Peninsula, which is this area in here, which is Mexico. And then here you have Central America, and that's made up of Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. So all these areas are called Central America. They're not North America. They're not South America. So I think that's important to understand, is that you have this split basically between Mexico and then you have Central America. I know that this gets back to basics, and I know that this may be a refresher for many of you, but some people do not understand basic geography. And I'm not blaming anybody for that. I'm not saying, oh, you should have done that. I'm not student blaming or anything else, or teacher blaming. I'm just saying that this is what I'm going to cover. So that's basically what we have there, is you have the Central America. Now, then you come into what they call South America. So South America here, another continent, and this is made up of many countries, and we've already talked about many of these countries. The main country that we are going to talk about somewhere along the line is Venezuela. And this one is important because of its current political situation, as well as the amount of migrants that are coming to America from Venezuela. Now, a lot of people might say, well, I don't understand. Why are they coming all the way to America? Why aren't they going to Panama? Why aren't they going to Costa Rica? Why aren't they going to Nicaragua? There are certain immigration laws that exist in those countries that people just, the migrants would not be able to adapt to those countries as well. So they go all the way through to Mexico and all the way up to America. And also you have to remember that some have relatives in America. So that's where they want to go. And they've heard good things about America, which they should, because America is a good country to come to and enjoy the freedoms that we all enjoy as Americans. A little bit of soapbox thing there. Now, there are some here that we need to go over, which is interesting. Guyana, for one, and that's interesting here. And there's also, it's interesting to note, when you have Guyana, that there are borders here that are interesting. Interestingly enough, part of that area, Suriname, and Suriname, interestingly enough, and French Guyana. Now, Suriname, a lot of people think are in the Pacific. They think it's an island in the Pacific. Suriname is no. It's a country in South America, folks. That's what we have. I mean, so I think it's interesting to show these type of areas, and a lot of border disputes there. That's why they're red. That's why they're red here. So, anyways, and we can talk about those as we go along. Brazil, which we've already talked about, a huge country undergoing some really deep political divides at this point. And then Bolivia, which we'll talk about. Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, which currently won the World Cup, in case you didn't know. Chile, which is a long coastline along Chile's area. And then it goes all the way down here, and there's a place called and it's called, and a lot of people think, see, this is the island. This is an island. Now, remember, an island is completely surrounded by water. Well, guess what? This is completely surrounded by water. This is it. So it's, the Grand Isle of Tierra del Fuego. So I thought that was interesting that people used to say, why don't you go to Tierra del, oh my gosh, that's as far away as Tierra del Fuego. Well, guess what? It's a pretty far distance. And to show you that distance, what I'd like to do is like to show you what is the distance here. So if we're talking about, let's say we're flying from, let's say we're flying from Florida, right? So we're flying from Florida and we want to find out that distance. Basically, we click here and we go all the way down and around to Tierra del Fuego. And you can see here that it's 6,000 miles as a crow flies. So basically, if you were flying from here to there, that's the way you'd go. Now, let's say you can't fly. Let's say you're you're having some type of you're going to drive, or you're going to walk, or you're going to do whatever. Well, then you do what they call a path. And the path is interesting because what you do is you just basically, so you start here, and then you can go here, here, down around there, down Central America, keep on going. We'll just keep on going. In fact, we'll go down the coast area here. So you can see already, we're talking about some real interesting all the way down. So if you're going to do it that way, it's going to be more like 8,000 miles. If you're just going to go, 8,000 miles. So a lot of people say, I don't understand what 8,000. That didn't come through. What is 8,000 miles? Because a lot of people don't know what that is. Well, let's just take a coast to coast United States. Go across. So coast to coast United States is 2,600 miles. That's going from coast to coast United States. So you'd have to do that, what, 2.5 times to be able to get to Tierra del Fuego. So that just shows, again, it's really important to show these distances to show exactly what's going on and understand exactly what's going on from that standpoint. All right, so we've been to South America. Now you'll see the distance between South America and Antarctica and the South Pole. So this is Antarctica here. I mean, a lot of people go, "Wow, that's pretty big." Yes, it is. It is a big area. And interestingly enough, to get there, again, we'll do a line, but to get there from, let's say, Tierra del Fuego, it's only about 1,000 miles. Less than 1,000 miles, 830 miles. If you want to get into the ice floe, it's about 1,200 miles. So it's not that far from here. But again, you'd have to add up those areas, plus whatever you're going to do to get to that point. So you can see here, that's South America, big. There's Antarctica, another continent. So let's go all the way up here. What do we have up here? Well, we have, it doesn't look like it's all that icy up in this area. But this is Greenland. And, you can take a look at this and go, oh, wow, that's really, wow. So here, here's what you have. You have the top of the world, basically. And there's Greenland right there. Greenland is its own continent. It's kind of there. It's kind of its own country continent type thing. What's this? What's this here? Well, that would be Iceland. So, they're not part of any continent per se. So they're up here around the Arctic area is what they are. Okay, so we have this. So let's take a look at some other continents, such as, and let's kick that around, Africa. So here's Africa, right? Big continent. How big is it? Well, I'm going to tell you. That continent is almost 4,000 miles wide. So remember, United States, 2,600. This is 4,000 miles. So you can see the width of that. And you see, and do you see this area in here? This is, I love the way they do terragraphs, actually. But this is all desert area. That's desert. This is green, more green down in here, but this is desert. So what are the parts of Africa? Well, first of all, you have what they call North Africa. And North Africa is made up of Egypt, Libya, Algeria, and then you have, Morocco and some of the other North African countries. Okay, Tunisia. And interestingly enough, the people talk about, different aspects of geography. Well, in Tunisia, there's a place called Tatooine. There's actually a place called Tatooine. And that's Star Wars, the Tatooine. So I thought that was interesting. In fact, you can search it here. We can see if we can see it here. Tatooine, Tunisia. So we can actually search for it and we can find it, and there it is. So Tatooine is a place that they actually filmed Star Wars, and you can go all the way in and see the city. I mean, it's not this little, it's pretty sprawling city, but that's Tatooine. And you can see, I mean, if you look at this, you sit back and you go, wow, this really does look like the actual set for Star Wars, doesn't it? I mean, look at the way the set is. I mean, you can go all the way into practically to ground level. Now, how do I know that? Well, here's the imaging date, 7/15/2022. So this is pretty aged. It's July. It's the north and east. So there's your latitude and longitude, and then there's your elevation. So I can make my elevation even lower than this. So basically, the best elevation I'm going to get is about 1,000 feet, right? Interestingly enough, so I can start to kick out there. And that's called what they call eye altitude. So my eye altitude, I can go all the way down. So I mean, interestingly enough, right? I mean, you can take this all the way, and this is what Google Earth Pro does for you, and it's pretty cool from that standpoint. So I think this is something that you can exit ground level interview or view, and you can go all the way back up again into the country and into that area. Okay? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is North Africa. So now, interestingly enough, a lot of people don't realize this. Egypt is part of Africa. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's part of the Middle East." Well, technically, it's part of the Middle East. You know, when you talk about the this area here, you know, and what it does is it links the Egyptian area and Israel. And if you see right here, you can see that this is so green in this area here off the Nile. And it continues green. But Israel is right here. So now we go into the Middle East area. But Egypt is, when you talk about Egyptians, you're talking about Africans. They are African people. I mean, and it's funny because I've talked to a number of Egyptians that just laugh at the Americans, thinking that somehow Egypt is Middle Eastern, and they go, no, actually we're African. So this is a big continent. You have South Africa here. Interestingly enough, a lot of people uh, don't realize, Cape Town is all the way down here. So that's what Cape Town is. A lot of people don't realize that. And this is called the Horn. And the reason it's called the Horn of Africa, it looks like a rhino's horn. It looks like a horn, hence the Horn of Africa. And this area here is the Arabian Peninsula. That's what this is called, the Arabian Peninsula. But it is the Middle Eastern area. Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, all part of Middle East. All part of the Middle East. And then you have Cyprus. And Cyprus is interesting because Cyprus is partly owned by Turkish and partly owned by Greeks. So it's interesting how that all works. But it's kind of a split island there. So this is Turkey here. A lot of people, again, don't realize the importance of Turkey. And so a lot of people don't realize that the Great Britain is not part of Europe. Great Britain is, I mean, yes, they put themselves as part of Europe, but they are an island unto themselves over here. There's Ireland here, and there's Great Britain, United Kingdom here. And then, sorry about that. Clear that. So then you have what they call Western Europe, which is Spain, Portugal, France, all these areas, Germany. Now you get into basically Central Europe, which you get into Poland, Hungary, Ukraine. All those are Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe is Bulgaria, Moldova, Ukraine, Romania. All that's Eastern Europe. Used to be part of the Warsaw Pact. Belarus. So Central Europe, Germany, kind of ends the Central European area, although Poland and Czech are part of that, and Austria. But the Italy is kind of what they call Southern European area. Southern European, we used to be Yugoslavia, now Croatia, Serbia, all these areas, what they call the Balkan countries. And then you have Greece, which is Aegean area, Aegean Sea, and this is the Mediterranean. Now, I've talked about this before, but look at this. You have the Black Sea here, which is basically completely enclosed, except for an area here called the Bosporus Straits. And you can see right here, this is what you have. That's the only way to go from the Black Sea through the Sea of Marmara into the Mediterranean Sea. So that's the only way to do that. And that's why Turkey basically owns the Bosporus Straits. Important, very, very important waterway. So now we get into what they call, and this is very important here, is when we talk about the difference between Middle East, which is all this Iraq, Saudi Arabia, all these United Arab Emirates, and then all of a sudden we get into what they call areas like Iran. And everyone sits there, well, it's part of the Mideast. Well, kinda, yeah, maybe, but basically what it's part of is it's part of what they call Central Asia. And Central Asia is in this area here, but this is called West Asia. And that's what they call Southwest Asia. Afghanistan, Southwest Asia. Iran kind of borders that area between the Mideast and Southwest Asia. But make no mistake about it, Afghanistan is not part of the Middle East. Nowhere near. Look, in fact, I'll just do a quick deal here for you. I mean, here's Afghanistan here. Here's the Middle East. Here's Afghanistan. The distance between that and the Middle East is almost 1,700 miles. So we're talking about a good distance between Southwest Asia and the Middle East. So what's all this? When we talk about Turkmenistan or Uzbekistan or Tajikistan, or any of these areas, Kyrgyzstan or Kazakhstan, this is called Central Asia. Central Asia. All this area is called Central Asia because it is literally central in that Asian area. Now, a lot of people sit back and they go, well, wait a minute, Chris, if that's a situation, then basically that means that India is Asia. Right? That's correct. That's correct. India is actually Asia. I mean, it's interesting that they would lump them in there, and we'd be surprised about that. Of course, it's part of Asia. Look at where they are in relationship to China, folks. Guess what? Guess what this is? China. This is China. I mean, it borders India. Now, true, it borders it with a ton of mountains here. I mean, one of which is Mount Everest, Kathmandu, Mount Everest, all in Nepal, which is huge area, all this area. I mean, look at the mountains. So the mountains are, they completely border that area. It's a natural borderline. So then you have Asia here. China is part of Asia, of course. Now, then you have these different areas, such as Korea, which is up in this area, right near Japan. A lot of people think that it's a hop, skip, and a jump to Vietnam from Korea. In fact, some people think that they're basically the same area. And there's Vietnam and there's Korea. And there is a 2,000-mile difference between them. So that is a big difference. But it's all part of Asia. Now, this is called Southeast Asia, made up of Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand. That's all part of Southeast Asia. So that's the big difference between those. Then you have Australia. Now, before you have all that, of course, you have, a lot of people skip this, right? I mean, what is this? And you have to understand that this area right in here is Malaysia, which, a lot of people just don't understand how big Malaysia is. Malaysia is huge. This is a big area, and Malaysia is a big area. So then you have Australia, and you can see that Australia has a lot of red soil here, so it's a lot of desert area. So this is what we talk about when we talk about how big the world is, right? And then a lot of people don't realize what this is. This is New Zealand, folks. A lot of people think New Zealand is way up here somewhere. Nope, it is way down here. As a matter of fact, it's very close to Antarctica and the South Pole. So, just these types of these types of facts, these type of things, I think is very important to understand exactly what we're talking about. You see how this goes. This Google Earth Pro, I think, is just one of the best areas to talk about when you talk about, and I love it that they have all the different areas, including deep water, separation, Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, and then we're back to the United States. So that's all I wanted to talk about today was basically the different countries, different geography, what it is, what's going on around the world, and distance. And I think a lot of people do not understand distances. It's an immense distance. Immense distances are talk about. We just talk about getting in a car and traveling wherever we want to travel. Well, just to let you know, it's not always that easy to do that when we talk about going into other countries. So I think that's really, really important. So that's pretty much it, folks. That's all I wanted to talk about today, and just how we go about doing that. On the next show, what I'll talk about is World Factbook, and how you can go to countries through the World Factbook and you can get all the data, all the facts you want. I'll show you how it's done. You can do it also, and it's really easy and it's free, and it gives you as much information as you want on just about anything you want on any country. So on that note, I will say au revoir, bid you adieu, and you take care of yourself, and thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time on The World View. This is Chris Greco. Take care.